Hey, it's Jesse here. Just want to share a reminder to you that you probably already know, but this is something that sometimes we can do in our walk with God, that we can learn from this story. So, during World War II, which ended in 1945, World War II ended in 1945, but there was a soldier in the Japanese army named Hiro Onoda. Hiro Onoda. And so let me read this from online. So the war ended in 1945, but Onoda initially held out with 3 other soldiers. One surrendered in 1950, and 2 were killed. One in 1954, and one in 1972. The men did not believe the flyers and letters from their families stating that the war was over, although it was over in 1945. It's 1972 now. They survived on wild fruits, game, which is basically animals that they killed, stolen rice, and occasionally engaged in shootouts with their issued rifles with locals and the police. Onoda was contacted in the jungles of Lubang by the Japanese adventurer Norio Suzuki in 1974, but still refused to surrender until he was formally relieved of duty by his former commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, who flew from Japan to the island to issue the order. Onoda surrendered on March 10th, 1974, and received a hero's welcome when he returned to Japan. That year, he wrote and published a best-selling autobiography and later moved to Brazil, where he became a cattle rancher. In 1984, Onoda returned to Japan, where he died in 2014 at the age of 91. So this is a pretty incredible story. And the reality is that Onoda continued to fight for 29 years in a war that had been over. Let me say that again. This man fought for 29 years, living in the jungle, on wild fruits, on animals, with 3 of his friends. 2 of them died. And he continued to fight for 29 years after the war was over. It's kind of a sad story. Although he showed dedication, he refused to believe, he refused to surrender until he got the official notice from his commanding officer that the war was over. But it's sad that he had to stay in that jungle for 29 years fighting against nothing. He stayed in there and refused to surrender. But the reality is sometimes we do this as Christians. We are fighting for year after year, time after time, fighting for something that's already been over. Fighting a battle that's already been won. I think that's in a song, actually. I'm fighting a battle that's already been won. I forget what song that is. Let me look it up. Maybe you know in the comments. I'm fighting a battle you've already won. It's called You've Already Won by Shane and Shane. Let me just read these lyrics for you. There is a peace that outlasts darkness, hope that's in the blood. There's a future grace that's mine today that Jesus Christ has won. So I can face tomorrow, for tomorrow's in your hands. All I need you will provide, just like you already have. I'm fighting a battle you've already won. No matter what comes my way, I will overcome. Don't know what you're doing, but I know what you've done. I'm fighting a battle you've already won. So the battle for our salvation has already been completed on the cross. The war has been over. When Jesus died, he said 2,000 years ago, Tetelestai, his final words. I used to wear a bracelet in high school at Mainland, in my high school, and it said Tetelestai. And I would hope that in class someone would ask me what it means. Because Tetelestai means it is finished. It's what Jesus said on the cross. The battle, the war has been finished. And because the battle's been finished, when we believe on Christ, we get the righteousness of Christ credited to our account. We are completely and totally and utterly justified in his sight, meaning God sees us as if we've never sinned. It's just as if I'd never sinned. Justified, never sinned. Justified. That's what it means. But sometimes we forget that the war is over. Sometimes we don't believe the report from God that the war is over. And sometimes we continue to fight something that has been finished. We continue to fight for God's attention, even though God has already given all of his attention on you. We continue to fight to please God, although he already said to you, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. We continue to fight to be righteous when God already says, I've made you righteous. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for fighting in the spiritual life. The Bible actually tells us that we're in a spiritual battle. Ephesians 6, to put on the armor of God that we may stand against the schemes of the devil, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers in heavenly places. Yes, I know the verse. But we don't fight for victory, we fight from victory. We know that Jesus wins in the end, so we're not fighting frantically and confused and in despair. We're fighting with hope and joy, knowing we already have the victory. It's like we're watching an Eagles game, and we already know the outcome of the game, and we're re-watching a tape on it. So we're not getting stressed out when the Eagles fumble the ball or throw an interception, because we know they won that game. We're living a life. We know Jesus won this game. He won this war. He won the battle of Armageddon against Satan and his demons. We know in Revelation 19 that Christ comes back with a sword that comes out of his mouth with a name written, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He comes back with us, with his army, and destroys with a word out of his mouth, completely wins. The battle is over. It is finished. The story has been written, and that is unchanging. It's impossible for God to lie. This is the end of the story. So, why are you so stressed? Why are you so anxious? Why are you so depressed? Why are you so defeated? Why are you in despair? Why are you downcast? Oh, my soul, hope in God. Why are we fighting this battle? Forgetting that he's finished the war. So we do fight. We do fight for truth. We fight to preach the gospel. I'm about to go to Stockton at 3 o'clock today to fight to bring Jesus to this campus, right, to the lost. And there still are battles we fight, but we know that we've already won as Christians. We have the victory. We fight with confidence. So don't be like that Japanese man who continued to fight after the war was over. Continue to trust that Jesus did all the work. And all the work we do for him is because he's won the battle. So, knowing the war is over is the key. Because if we're fighting something that's not really there, we can really be discouraged and wasting our energy. So, know that Jesus wins. It gives you rest for your soul when you know that. You're no longer frantic and anxious. You're at rest. And now you can fight with true power because of what Christ has done. I hope this made sense. I know there's a lot of paradox in what I've been saying, so I hope this blessed you. God bless.